Yo guys, what's up? This is Gunna226. How's it going? I'm going to try to do something a little different here. I'm going to finally do the front sight review I've been talking a long time about. I've been going to front sight for many, many years. I think I started going back in 2010, something like that. I became a First Fight family member, and they've had really good classes. I've been to a bunch. Shotgun, rifle, handgun. My daughter's been there to the kids' classes. Highly recommend those. So here's the first one I want to do is I'm going to go through the 4-day handgun class. So, a couple of tips for the front sight handgun class. First of all, before you go, you need to go see my front sight prep video for all the equipment you're going to need to go to a class. It is really critical you have all the right stuff out there. You can get ammo. I usually buy ammo like at Walmart. There's also a Big 5 in town. There's a lot of ammo places. You can get ammo at the ammo bunker at front sight. The prices aren't too high. They're pretty competitive. So you can do that. So anyway, the first day you go to front sight. So I like to go the day before you get to front sight, right? So the class starts on Friday, right, is day one. I like to check in the day before because you got to be at front sight super early in the morning. So the hotel I stay in is a Saddle West. If you're a front sight member, first family member, they'll give you a discount on the hotel room. It's like $50 currently. I think they raised it and then they lowered it and raised it. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but it's going to be around $50. I'm not sure when you're going to see this video, but it'll be still cheaper than the rest of the hotels in town. Other hotels in town are like Best Western. They have they're a little more gun friendly. The Saddle West will make you sign a waiver on a dry practice. Not a big deal. You can do dry practice before class, after class, and if you're carrying concealed, they're probably not going to notice you carrying anyway. It's Nevada. There's an open carry in Nevada. You can go research that, but it's pretty good. Anyway, it's a free state, so they have pretty lenient laws. And after you take this 4-day class, you are eligible to take the CCW class at front sight, and you can get have permits in Florida, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and I think I have another one in process somewhere. So anyway, you can do all that, and 100% legal. Nevada does recognize a couple other states, I think. You can check one of the websites, but it's not the focus of this. So on the first day, go to the hotel, check in the day before. Check-in starts about 3 o'clock. You can order box lunches right at the hotel. They're kind of expensive. They're about $10 a day for a box lunch from the Saddle West Hotel. You can go to Walmart down the street and spend $15 to get peanut butter and jelly or sandwiches and stuff. $20 maybe for the week. So I highly recommend that. Also, the day before, you have the opportunity to go to a couple gun stores if you get there early enough. It's Nevada, so they have a lot of cool stuff. A lot of stuff I can't buy. And here in California, a lot of stuff I can't even see. So I usually like to go to the local gun store, check some stuff out, and hit Walmart for supplies before 3 o'clock is when I check in. So, get a good night's sleep, get to bed early on Thursday night, or whenever your class starts the day before. The 4-day class, I believe, started on Friday. It went Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So that went pretty well. So day one at front sight. You want to wake up early in the morning. I know it's not the best, but I woke up at like 4:45 for the first day. You get a free breakfast buffet, all you can eat at Saddle West, so take advantage of that straight away. The breakfast buffet isn't open until like 5 o'clock, I think, or something like that. I'm trying to remember. But you can pick up your box lunch as soon as you're done with the buffet. You can pick up your box lunch and put it in your cooler or whatever, and leave the hotel about 6 a.m. Have the car packed and ready to go. So it takes about half an hour, a little less, depending on how fast you're going. 20 to 30 minutes to get there. And so you get in line. There's probably going to be a bunch of people in line in front of you. One of the tips is, if you want to get there a little later, it won't be as crowded. So if you get there like 6:45, most of the traffic's already gone, and you can just flow right through. You don't have to wait in line or anything like that. You'll have to walk a little further, because you'll be a little bit further out in the parking lot. But you won't have any issues waiting. First thing you do is you go and you check in. You got to show your ID, usually like your driver's license or whatever you got, and your front sight membership card. And if you're with a group, make sure you're with them at that point, because that is when they're going to assign you a range. So the guy will check it. You get in line. You go up to this little booth through the bars. You'll hand them your ID and tell them how many people are in your group, and they'll try to get you all in the same range. If you have a really big group, they might not be able to do that. But the most people I've gone with is about 4, and they've got us all in on the same range, no problem whatsoever. One of the things, if you have somebody who has a handicap or something like that, who's in a wheelchair, on crutches, is elderly, and can't walk on stones or crushed stones or the rocks, the range 1, and I think they might have another one, is paved. So the lines you go down, they're paved, so it's kind of nice. You probably want to get onto range 1 if you have that situation, and they'll recognize that and they'll put you there at the appropriate range. So when you go to weapons check-in, is right after that. You want to take 1 box of ammo so they can check it. So the thing they require is it's brand new factory ammo. They don't like reloads. They've had a lot of issues with those. A lot of idiots out there reloading. I'm not quite an idiot yet, but I'm learning. So I'm starting to reload, but I won't be taking my reloads to front sight because they don't allow that. And I've heard a lot of bad stories of guns blowing up, and I believe it. So weapons inspection, you need 1 empty box of ammo, you need 1 empty mag, and 1 holster, and your gun. And put your gun in the holster. I like to do it at the hotel. I load up when I'm at the hotel, but they don't allow you to be hot on front sight property. So before you get on the front sight property, before you turn on the front sight road, they make you unload. So just to give you a forewarning, if you have a CCW or you're exercising your rights in Nevada to open carry, unload before you get to front sight gate. I do it on the berm of the road right before I turn down front sight road. It's a real nice place to do it. So anyway, let me continue. So they will put a wave of magnet over your ammo to make sure it's not metal, or it's not a, I hope your ammo is metal, but brass cased, and not steel case. They don't like to have steel on the range. I'm not sure exactly why. There's a bunch of reasons for safety and whatever, but I think one of their main reasons is you're not really allowed to pick up your empties off of the range. So if you're a reloader, it's going to be a little sad to see all these thousands and thousands of cases of brass on the ground getting destroyed as people walk on them. But one of the ways they make money at front sight, I'll go over this maybe in a different video, is they lease out the ranges to people who come in and pick up the brass and then reload, I'm guessing, and sell them somewhere else. So if you need anything like that, just be aware. Just be aware you're not allowed to pick up the brass off the ground. So then they do weapons inspection. They make sure your weapon's in good condition. They make sure your slide will lock back on an empty magazine. Make sure all the functions work. And make sure everything's free and it's well greased and that kind of stuff. And it's kind of clean at least, so it'll cycle okay. So after that, they'll release you, and they'll give you a yellow lanyard to put around your neck. This indicates that you've been through weapons check. So when you get to the range, they'll take your lanyard and they'll sign you into the class. So when you're checking in, When you do actually, I forgot this part, when they give you your range assignment, they will write the range assignment on the back of your hand. And if they have a kid with you, they'll write the range assignment, your range assignment, on the back of their hand, and also that they're going to be in the kids class. Just so you're aware. And they'll also mark your hand to make sure that you match your child, which is good. I mean, it's not super secure, but I'll get to that in another video probably when I do a kids class review or something like that. So you can go to your car, put all your stuff in there if you want to. They don't like a lot of stuff in the room, so none of your range bag or anything like that can go into the room. So you initially meet in the room at about 7:15. It's a little loose. I think it's now 7:30 potentially. But anyway, they'll tell you when you check in what time you need to be in the class in the seats, and just pay attention to that. They fill, so if you get there super early, you're going to be stuck all the way at the right side of the room. Now, recently, when I've gone, they haven't filled the entire room. They actually do the center section. When I was first going, they filled the entire room to the gills. I'm not sure why. The interest might be waning a little bit at Front Sight, but it seems like class was about 1,000 people. Now it's down to about 800, I think, which is still pretty good training weekend to fill the class. So I'll get to the class sizes in a little bit. Anyway, after you get seated in the classroom, they'll talk to you about safety. You'll sign some papers that go over the dry practice and the safety rules. You'll sign those, and then you'll sign a waiver saying it's not Front Sight's responsibility if you get shot or you shoot somebody. That's on you, right? So you got to be safe on the range, and they go over those range safety rules very well, and the dry practice rules very well. And you'll get some more of that in class too, so don't worry about that if you don't pick it up right there. So class will be over about 8:30ish, 8:25, somewhere around there. I was on range 8, so I walked down to range. Actually, I went to my car. Actually, I went to the bathroom first. There's some bathrooms that are real bathrooms right there. I forget where they're at exactly on the ranges, but they're around range 8 somewhere. You can see a map of Front Sight somewhere. I'll try to slice one in on this video if I can. So anyway, you go to the bathroom first, take care of business, and then go back to your car and get the rest of your stuff and go to the range. They'll make you put a label on your hat, usually on the front of your hat and the back of your hat, is the way they'll do that. So they can see you in the class when you're sitting down, you're learning, and then they can see you on the range because they're not standing in front of you at the range, they're standing behind you, which is probably a good thing. And then so requirements are you need to have glasses, wraparound glasses, or if you're wearing prescriptions, they'll probably make you put side guards on. Some people cut up old cardboard boxes, but you can buy the ones on Amazon beforehand if you're well informed, which you are now. You're going to need electronic ear protection. Ear protection is pretty much a requirement, and I'm going to do a review on electronic hearing protection here in a little bit. There's a couple different kinds, and there's some better than others, and we'll get through that. So anyway, the first thing that they're going to do is do a little lecture, and then they'll do a coaching demo and show you how well they can shoot. Right? They'll introduce themselves, say, "This is why I'm qualified to be an instructor. Hey, I'm ex-military. I was an instructor with the police for 30 years. Now I'm retired, and I'm here at Front Sight instructing," or whatever. Right? They'll give you their credentials, and they'll introduce themselves, and they'll actually go out there and do a little shooting demo, and you can see how precise and how good you can get going through Front Sight, theoretically. So they do a demo of a chamber check. So that's one of the things they'll go through: how to unload a loaded firearm, and you'll do a little unloading drill. They'll teach you how to do a weaver stance, and isometric tension, and the how to stand. One of the things that they do is they give you little breaks throughout. Maybe about 10:45, they'll give you a little break. Potentially, they have a strict schedule to stay to. So one of the things that they do at Front Sight is, with so many students there and so many ranges they have right next to each other, they have a strict schedule they need to adhere to. So I've seen the instructors pull out, you'll probably see them pull out a little sheet, and they'll say like, this time do the lecture, at this time do the shooting drill. So the entire Front Sight will be shooting all at the same time, at least for like handgun class. There might be a couple other classes not on the same schedule exactly. If they're in faraway ranges, like the rifle range, you'll probably hear some rifles going off in the background and stuff like that. But for the most part, they all follow the same thing. So one of the main things they go over in the beginning is the 3 secrets. So that's sight alignment. You want to focus on the front sight, and the dominant eye exercise. Now, I'm sure you guys understand the whole dominant eye exercise. Some of you might not, but you'll go through it in the class. It's really good. Try to do it the way they tell you to. There's different ways to do it, but the way they do is they have a way to do it, and it's pretty good. Then they go through secret number 2, which is trigger control, where finger placement should be, and they will take their finger and they'll draw a line on their finger with the Sharpie. Say, this is where your finger pad should be on the trigger. And then they'll say, slack out of the trigger, and then do a trigger reset. Like, they do a lot of trigger reset drills. It's pretty good. And then the 3rd secret is follow through. So after you complete the shot, you need to follow through, hard focus on the front sight, target in the background, and just keep that sight picture until you're sure the threat is not a threat anymore. They do a diagnostic trigger drill. It's from the Marines and LAPD. You align your sights. They run your trigger for you, which is totally weird. I've been shooting for a very long time, more than 30 years or more. I don't want to say. But anyway, it's been a long time. So anyway, you align the sights on your gun. The instructor will come up when you're on the line and tell you they're going to run your trigger for you. They get you all situated, and while you're holding the gun, they run the trigger, which is a little disconcerting at first. It's really certainly a surprise break for you, because you don't know when it's going to recoil, so you can't really have that reaction. This is really geared towards people who are new shooters and haven't been to front sight before, potentially, just to make sure they do kind of like a progressive method on they progress with guns as you go, right? They start out real basic, and then they go up to more advanced as you go. They want to make sure everybody's safe and everybody's good, doing the right things on the range. So they run the trigger, and then you run the trigger after that, and they watch you. And they do like a trigger reset drill with you, and they maybe give you some advice on how to shoot maybe a little better. If you're pulling to one side, they give you advice. And I'll do another video on diagnostics, how to diagnose your own trigger and what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, that kind of stuff. And so they do that with the first relay and then the second relay. The one thing I forgot to tell you is they'll make you pick relays. So the way they do it is a student teacher and student coach outline. So one group will be on the line shooting, and then there will be a group of coaches right behind you, watching you, making sure you stay safe, you're not doing anything stupid, you're not bending over on the line to pick up something you might have dropped, that kind of stuff. Make sure you're not flailing around with your loaded firearm. It's a pretty good method. I've learned a little bit from doing that, from actually teaching myself, and just coaching and being coached by another student. So initially you get paired up with somebody you came with, but then later on they make you switch. Usually after day 1, they make you switch coaches, and if you can either pair up with somebody you know or somebody you don't know. If you go with your wife, you may not want to be with her. It depends. It might be a long car ride home if you critique her too much. You know how it goes. Anyway, They'll do a trigger reset drill about noon time. I don't have the exact times here, but I did record a little bit. You're not allowed to record any video on the range, which is one of the things that I was very disappointed about. You can only do still pictures. They said you can take as many still pictures as you want. So I took some, and I'll try to cut some in. Then they let you go about 12:30 to lunch, and they give you about an hour. Now, one of the things at Front Sight they do, they have a bunch of people come in. They have a bunch of lectures, classroom lectures, and stuff like that for the 4-day. But during lunch, they really don't lecture you so much, but they do try to sell you stuff. Like day one, I think, is a presentation on Legal Shield. I'm not really sold on it, but I mean, I think it's a good thing to have some kind of protection. I know the SCCA does something, Legal Shield does something. It would be a good idea to probably have one of those in the unlikely event you're going to need to use your firearm to defend yourself. It would be good to have some legal defense thought out ahead of time. So after lunch, we'll go through the color code of mental awareness. They'll do a little concealment speech, and then you'll go back to the range for some skills practice. So, depending on what range you're on, you could be out at the 75-yard line doing dry presses, which is basically an empty firearm. You just press the trigger until it's dry, and it's dry. There's no live ammo in it. If you're on one of the shorter ranges, which are really nice, you go back to the 15 and you do it from there. And then they also do we do some real shooting at 3 yards, and then 7 yards. They do some pairs. All right, we call it double tap. They don't call it that. They call it a controlled pair. And then they start doing a lecture on after action drills to just make sure you're checking your environment, making sure nobody's coming up behind you. It's supposed to simulate you getting out of the line of fire, maybe taking cover, and checking around you, make sure there's no other bad guys once you eliminate the threat. So then they'll go through a reading the target lecture, and then reading your shot skills. They'll basically do a shot diagnostic on you again, and see how you're shooting. If you're shooting like low to the right or low to the left, or you're anticipating not pressing right, whatever. And then about 4:40, they'll do a final administrative unload for the day, and they'll give you some homework. Yep, homework at Front Sight. So your homework will be 15 minutes of dry practice, and try to do some trigger reset drills, and that'll really help you save some time when you're drawing and firing. So then finally, about 5 o'clock, you get dismissed for the day from the range. But then you have another classroom lecture. About 5:15 it'll start. And they'll go over a few things. They have some really good tips on there. And what's going to do, what you should shoot for. They'll explain that any handgun round is ballistically insufficient, like compared to a shotgun or rifle. And they'll also recommend you write a letter to yourself and buy the class notes and do it like certified mail. So if you're ever in like a shooting incident, you'll have that for backup. And then the end of day one will be about, 6 o'clock-ish, 6:30. I don't remember exactly. I didn't write it down. But that'll be the end of your day one, and you'll be probably tired and exhausted, and depending on what time of year it is, you might be hot. In the summer, they have some night classes I highly recommend. You not do it during the day because it's super hot out there. Anytime between like late September and late March, early May, maybe, is a good time to go. Other than that, you might want to stick to night classes or the indoor classes they have. Anyway, if you guys want to know more about Front Sight, send me an IM, and I can get you some more information. This is basically a day one Front Sight handgun review. And stay tuned, I'm going to be doing a day 2, 3, and 4 reviews as well, but I'll do them in separate videos. because this one's getting kind of long. Anyway, thanks for watching.